6 months into the miners' strike, the way we understand what's going on often depends on the sights and sounds presented on television, personalities in conflict and ready images of police and pickets. Yet there are other images, like this Food for Victory festival in Nottingham for the families of striking miners. We want to open up the debate and ask other questions, like which jobs are valuable in our society, who creates, who benefits, who participates in planning for our energy supply. We want to think about the current strike in the industry by going back a decade to when we first made a miners' film in black and white. While many things have changed, the basic issues are the same. That time round, a government fell. Today, again, the government lurches from one disaster to another. The miners' film of 1974, which follows shortly, is our documentary record of that period. We think the picture still holds true. But first of all, in 1984, some other facts. Speaking to miners and their families, we face an overwhelming sense of the loss of civil liberties.
If I want to go to Mansfield shopping with a wife, I'm stopped. I even have a mother. My mother works at Edwin's store in a nursing home, old age people's nursing home, and she sits in the side of the car with a uniform on and a badge, and I'm stopped, and that's where I'm going, and yet I'm just taking the mother to work, and even she's amazed at what's going off, you know. We've had an incident this week where we've had 3 old age pensioners sat on a public seat, and because one of the old age pensioners wearing a Knox badge, they've tried to move him off. I had the same thing happen to me yesterday. I had the young one sat with me and he told me I've got to move down here. I told him straight, if he's going to take me, he's going to have to arrest the young one as well. He said, well, enjoy your day, just sit there, you know. It's just unbelievable. They're breaking every rule that's going. What kick they get out of it, I've no idea, because as far as the Allerton lads go, every one of them comes down here day in and day out. They stand there, behave themselves, and if things are too quiet, the police seem to like to liven it up a bit. Push here, a push there. I don't know, they seem to have taken every civil right away from us in Allerton, and it's heartbreaking. I mean, these lads that's even going into work aren't seeing what's going off, because everything seems to be done when they're not around, you know? And we get the blunt blame of everything, and it's... No. Even if we stop a car and go across the road to talk to him, the police will come across, a quick word, and then he's telling the driver to move on, you know. And we've had 1 or 2 lads who's actually stopped and wanted to talk to us, and when they have talked to us, the police have come across and said, move on. He said, no, hold on, I used to work with this lad. He says, I want to talk to him. The police said, no, he says, get on your way, you're going to be lifted to a working miner that's going into work, because he's saying he's obstructing the highway. As you can see from the route into the pit, it's not a public highway as such, is it? It's only turning into the pit yard. It's just amazing. They just, as far as I'm concerned, they've got this thing against pickets, and if they can harass us and intimidate us, they seem to enjoy it, you know.
As we were filming, a young man was arrested in the presence of his mother.
There's that many lying and unders going off.
He's a music student at Nottingham, and they've picked him up, they've handcuffed him in the van and took him away. He has nothing to do with the NUM, nothing to do with any pit whatsoever. And he's a music student.
So where was he sitting?
On the public seat outside the library. And they've handcuffed him and they've got him in a van. They took him away. That's where we're going now. And this is what we have to put up with. Then they call it a free bloody state.
Right, thank you.
10:47.
No, so where's the food come from that you distribute?
Norwich, Kent. You know, it's like a charity. You know, they've took us under their wing, so they're keeping us supplied in food. You know, we have a donation every Sunday. I mean, then on a Sunday you can't move in, so chaos. You know, it's more. But I mean, as you can see now, come the start of the, start of putting the parcels up, and then it just slowly dwindles. till it's sort of, you get what you can when you can get it, you know.
Yeah, we've got lots of way fundraising in places like Manchester and
Liverpool and
Liverpool, Preston, and they always come back with their car full of food. You know, where I've had a check this week for £100 from a couple from London, 82 years of age.
I might have wanted a car.
And that's the sort of support we're getting throughout the country.
Yeah.
I've always had it in my heart and in my mind that we're going to win all the way. Because I stood on there on Pride like my father did in 1926. And my grandfathers who formed these unions for us, we're not going to chuck all that away. All them are in the grave. And they're in the grave for fighting for us. And what we're doing, they fought for us when we were kids, and we're doing the same thing for our kids. As far as I'm concerned, there's no job losses for our lads.
And 2 days ago, last Tuesday, I was with my wife, my son and daughter. The police asked us to get out of the car, and I said, no, I've done nothing wrong. Where are you going? I said, I'm going to Ollerton to take the wife for an interview for a job at Ollerton Coop. He said, you're turning around. I said, no, I'm not, I'm going. Anyway, the girls out the car, the wife got out the car, the son and daughter got out the car. There was about 5 or 6 policemen from Essex. I can remember some of the numbers. And they said, you're turning around. I said, I'm not, I'm going that way. And the wife said, if you arrest him, arrest all of us. You can't even move anywhere. I might as well be in house arrest. Every police, and there's 37 divisions of police being used in Nottinghamshire at the present time, know me personally.
Kind of go out the house. They're patrolling every night. They're going round with doors. They're picking people up off the street. They're arresting people for nothing. One officer turned around and said after he had arrested 3 people at the video shop, he turned around and said, there's room for 1 more in the van. Just pick anybody up to fill the van.
They're provoked by the police. They're looking for trouble all the time. We've heard them on the picket lines. I want so many arrested today. Do you know what I mean?
They've just been used as a political force to break the miners' strike here in Nottingham. And they shouldn't be involved in an industrial dispute like this.
I mean, what's life like generally in the village?
Nobody knows what's going on in Nottinghamshire. Oh.
There was one particular village that was under siege for 4 days by the police. They couldn't get out of their homes because they were accommodating Yorkshire pickets.
What's it like under house arrest?
Pardon?
They're like under house arrest?
Well, I suppose you could say that more or less. And they were going into these people's homes and dragging people out of their beds. I just couldn't believe that this could happen in England, but it is happening here in Nottinghamshire. I think this government's got a lot to answer for. We can't live in a shell anymore and just, look to our own families and our home. We've got to look further. We've got to look at the future of our children, and we've had to come together and fight, and this is what we've done.
I think Margaret Thatcher didn't realise what she was taking on. No. She thought she was taking the miners on. She didn't realise that the wives was going behind her, We were stuck as her. We'll sit this out. So I hope she's prepared.
There's no way that she'll starve our men back to work because the women will see to that. We'll go out and we'll find the people that will give us the support to keep our kitchens going and to keep supplying food parcels, to take the pressure off our striking families.
You'll keep going on the picket lines?
Oh, yes, definitely.
I live for the picket lines.
Yes,
before my husband was sent to prison, we used to fight, argue who was going to watch children, so who could go picking. So the first time I went, I was nervous, but not now. I really enjoy it. I like to go picking a couple of times a week, if I can fit in.
Do you think women are affected with picketing?
Yes, they don't like it. We're a thorn in their side.
What they have to say, hardly heard on television, makes a contribution to the balanced view to which the media aspire but rarely manage to achieve.
Make that 2 coffees, please. 3 coffees.
We did a street march at Mansfield. There was a rally.
We'll now go back to 1974 and to the miners' film, our film, but also theirs, as the title says, to try to offer you a fuller picture. We hope you'll make your own sense of our story.
My dad always sifted the cinders when he used to take them off the fireplace and use the cinders again, because it was a man's life that was at stake. For every piece of coal that comes out of that pit, there's a man's life at stake, or a bad injury. And he never wasted a cinder.
I wouldn't want him to go down when he grows up. I'd much prefer to go out to work myself and keep him at home than have him down underground. Would Teddy Heath go down? Would Lord Carrington go down? And that's them that's screaming that the miners are no good. And why? Why should a miner be classed any lower than any other man in this country? Surely what he does is necessary for this country.
When the man on the machine, on the shearer, pushed the pans over, we follow up behind getting chocks in, you see. But they'd left it what you call on push, this chock. So I had to kneel and lean over to knock the handle off, to knock the pressure off the chock so I could get it in. And a big stone fell and hit me in the back of the neck. Yeah. That'll give me a 34% disability, spine and neck, which has affected my arms. I've got dust on the lungs, but they say you've got dust, but not enough to make an assessment. That's an excuse, that. That's an excuse. I've been nearly 40 years in the pit, so I know what's wrong. I mean, I'm gasping for breath. I really am gasping like a fish out of water. And I'm in pain. Oh, yeah, married, 2 children, yes, yeah. And yet my wages now, I'm dropped from £36.90 to £27.27 a week. I've dropped £9, about £9.60 in wages.
Mechanics like ourselves are expected to carry out statutory examinations on this equipment. And all our money is £29 a week. That's gross wage. Now I have a take-home pay of somewhere in the region of about £22 on a flat week. That's why it's been necessary to have to work overtime in order to get a reasonable standard of living.
So, brother, how long are you then on overtime ban?
How long now?
Yeah.
What do you know? About 8 weeks, isn't it? About 8 weeks, I think. Yeah.
And how long are you going to hold out?
Oh, I'm prepared to hold out until we win. That's it. And I hope we do win.
You're a couple of fellas, Jim.
Yes, the miners are sticking out. They're determined to go all the way. We're going to beat the government all the way through. They're reducing production all the way through. They've lost 2 hours this morning. They'll lose some more during the week. Production's dropped from 7,000 to about 2,000. Last week, one pit, they only sent 600 knocked ton up. 5 days' wages.
We're achieving this within about a moment. Heath has planned for a long battle with the miners. When you're engaged in battle, obviously your tactics alter from time to time as the circumstances change. And I'm not against strike at the right time.
I think the men are prepared to stop out until they get satisfaction. I'm quite convinced of that. I mean, there's only one end, and that's money. If he's not going to put money, that's it. It's either pay up and shut up, as far as I'm concerned. We've been told this, we can tell them back. Simple as that. When they start putting the prices up in the streets, for your wives to go down the shops, what do? They say, well, if you don't want to pay the price, that's it. But there's no alternative. If they want the car, let them come and get it.
The miner, all he asks out of life is a decent wage for his work that he's doing. Mummy. What, darling? Yeah, I know, I took it on.
Mummy, we started it.
All he wants to do, I mean, my husband, he works hard all week. All he asks out of life is to have a decent home. The cost of living is rising all the time, but the demand they ask for in the first place just won't be high enough. Because you can imagine how much I have with the 5 girls. They can't come till Thursday, so what? That'll be a tenner. I expect they charge you £3 to knock on the door. I think I brought my kids up too fussy because they have clean pants and clean socks every day. But I work at night. I don't like going out to work at 5 o'clock at night. I don't like going out cleaning up the dirt and the muck in the coal office. They keep telling us where there's muck with money, but I never find none. I'm not going to get you muck now. You can imagine what sweeping this wood is like. The first time I did this floor, I had a shock because after I started mopping it, I found it was red. I thought it was black before I started. Just really to pick the dust up, you know. I don't do it because I like it. I do it because we have to, and so do all the other wives.
The people are pressed into continual rising prices and rents, and at the same time they're being restricted to negotiate a reasonable wage directly with the employer. The government have taken on the trade unions. By the Industrial Relations Act, by the introduction of phase 1, 2 and 3, they have restricted our ability to negotiate with the employer.
I think every trade unionist, every good trade unionist knows that if he gets the miners down, that will be the end of trade unionism for a bit, as we know it anyway.
Well, this is quite true because, you see, they keep emphasising so strongly, ministers do on TV and in the press, that so many millions of workers are settled within phase 3.
It is a deliberate distortion because they haven't had the ability, either in bargaining power or the unions have not been strong enough in order to combat phase 3. And this is the reason that they've accepted it. An unwilling acceptance, certainly not a willing one.
Well, they have no power to bargain with. They have no power to bargain with. Now, as Dick's already said, if we fail, I know we won't, then everybody else fails.
Everybody. The whole movement.
Exactly. It's not just the mine workers that's going to lose out on this. It's the whole of the trade union, the whole of the working people of this country.
The unity of the miner is very strong. If they'll all stick together, they'll always stick together. If the rest of the working class would, you know, how better can I put it? Get the strength from the miners. It's easy for the miners because they live together in close-knit communities, so the strength is passed on.
Never. Not as long as I can remember. That's £15.63 we had to live on, me and him, after 51 years in pits.
No. Tell them what do you get now for pension from me and you is £12.60, isn't it?
£12.63 and £3,
That's right.
£15.63.
Yeah.
I wouldn't like to think that a lad and his family had got to go through what we'd gone through when we were first married.
No.
By God, I wouldn't.
Well, we've all been in the struggle, haven't we? We've grown up with the struggle, this is it.
If you want, go back to 1920.
Yes, what are you talking about?
The 1926.
I always remember that. I was on the We got 3 half-crowns from the union. And after that, every now and again, we'd get a voucher from the union for £0.5. We had to go to the, what we call then the relief, which is the Social Security now.
The parish.
And we get a £1 voucher, depending on what family you get.
Indeed.
The main activities of the local lodge was the question of organising aid to the striker's family. Like we organised soup kitchens then, with this in mind.
You couldn't pay your rent, you couldn't pay your insurance, you couldn't go into the little shop because you just hadn't got the money to give them, and they...
I can remember when they came out on the horses.
When the mounted police was about,
Yeah.
the police was putting in the pits, and the soldiers were there to be the picketers.
Look at Churchill with all his tanks and what have you in Hyde Park. It was all set up, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And you're not going to tell me that these Tories are any improvement on that lot.
No, indeed.
In fact, they're more crafty than ever they were, because they want to use this machinery that they've already got set up.
And I'm asking the country to confirm this, so that those who have challenged the incomes policy and the view of Parliament can see that the nation stands for a firm incomes policy.
I don't think there was a great deal of activity around the question of demands. The ordinary man of the street was inclined to leave it to the leader and just accepted what he was told by them. You know, this is the aftermath of the old days when very few people could read or write.
After a week...
Say, Thomas took the railway workers back.
The miners were still out until December. And then after it had all finished, we had every halfpenny of that relief to pay back. It was stopped off the men's dockets before the money before it was brought home. So much every week. And 29th of July 1935 I came into Kent, and I'd just finished paying off my bank's rent and got my insurance straight and got the relief off.
There was about 60 or 70 men stood waiting to see the manager for a job, and when it came to my turn to go in, he said, "What can they do?" I said, "I can work." "I can work," he says, "and they can all work out there too." And I always remember the words he said to me. He said, "I suppose I can sing the red flag then, can they?" Because he was a Yorkshireman, you know. He said, "I suppose I can sing the red flag then, can they?" But like everybody else, I wanted a job.
That's right.
and I didn't own up to singing the red flag, and I got a job.
Union miners, stand together, do not heed the boss's tail. Keep your hands upon your wages and your eyes.
The working class learned many, many things in the general strike. The workers become more involved in their own destiny, and certainly in conducting the strike. And the miners, of course, set up many, many organizations in the mining areas, not only to perpetuate the strike, but to retain the solidarity that's a traditional part of the miners' way of life, which was not only reflected in 26, but again in 1972, and of course in 1974.
We in Birmingham East have an affinity with the miners, which I think needs repeating. It was our district committee who mobilised the Birmingham workers to march to Saltley, to close the gates and really set about It was this action and the solidarity with the miners which finally allowed them to win a temporary victory the year before last.
So now we're going to elect these wagons, and we want 4 men to go to lorry, to the stand back, and we're going to talk to these drivers and ask them to go back. And if we don't get cooperation from police, we're going to draft another 5 bus loads down here. That's why your biggest team was full government, yeah, please. And that's what we're going to do. Please. No, they'll tell you. Won't get up for this, I'll tell you. You remember the transport here, aren't you? Hanging round going, the 100 metres squash line's going, aren't they? Yeah. Would you ready to come in? Right? Yes. Finish first? No, we're coming the other way from Shell. Well, I don't know. All right, you don't get down to 1 or 2. Yes. No, but look, don't bring beer with you. 2 or 3 fuckers a month. I will complain to your thing. Spend what you like. I will not be broken. Do what I like to do around. The gates will not be open again.
It has taken a long and hard struggle to erect the trade union. It took long enough for us to be effective in power as to render the employing class powerless. And they ran to their governments, and let's underline, governments, not government. They ran to their capitalist governments for protection because now they were ineffective.
Whether it was the decision to go for a statutory incomes policy and go to Parliament and ask for the powers, whatever the decision was, and they were unforeseen, then we have taken them firmly and decisively with a united cabinet.
Looks like a docker's coach. Wave it in, same procedure, everybody off, search the coach, lift the seats, search the boats.
What do you think of the car?
Yeah, you're here, man. The police go right through the clothing, frisk them all the way down, and this is how it is all the time. We're just stopping and harassing all the time.
time when the working class have never been under such a vicious attack, and yet it's at this time we hear voices in our supposed camp calling for moderation. No one is going to tell this union that we should accept court's decision. We know to accept the Industrial Relations Act means acceptance of the Phase 1, Phase 2, Phase 3, and whatever else is to come. It means that we've accepted the attacks upon us, and this we will never do.
But I want to sound a word of warning. It is necessary for us to continue this unity, to support the miners, because make no mistake about it, if you get any plans to defeat Phase 3, then the miners have got to win. And therefore the question of unity with the miners, is of paramount importance.
As I say, the strike was the first since 1926. That was the first national strike. And I think all the members got to know what the other members, what the other areas and that were doing. And it was the first good look we got outside the pits, out on picket duty and that. And you got to find out how other people live. It opened everybody's eyes to the conditions outside the pits.
We used to have to walk around, it was a block what it was on, you know, and we used to have to walk around the block all night, and just make sure there's no one that come in, We used to get blokes coming out of the power station giving us drinks, you know, keep us warm, They tried to get in when we was at Battersea, but, well, the police said they could come in, you know, because they thought we'd ended the strike. It was the last day of the strike. And then we got told by the union not to let them in, so they just turned round and went, and then we got told about 12 o'clock in the afternoon it was.
Thank you as an action again. Thank you.
363, please.
Two one nine, John.
8513. Thank you, George. Stop.
I think today is the making and breaking of the mining industry in this country, definitely. We don't see trainees. The last approval we had was older than me. And what's happened to him? He's picked up now. He's not going to wear it. He's come back into the new way of working. He come off the old way of working. He's not having this present way of working. He won't work in these conditions.
We believed for many, many generations that nationalisation was probably the end of the private ownership of the industry. And so when the pits were nationalised, there was much happiness in the coalfields. But whether it answered all questions and all the ambitions is another matter. The type of nationalisation that we've got in the mining industry is not a question of who owns the means of production and distribution.
For the rich, wicked race, and there are a great number of them in that place. Very down, 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 very down. And how does the old devil behave in that place? Oh, sir, he is cruel to the rich, wicked race. He is far more crueler than you might suppose, for he's like a mad bull with a ring through his nose. Very down, 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 very down.
After nationalisation, the miners were asked to produce more coal to assist the country out of its economic plight. And up to 1957, £2,000 million was lost in revenue by the Coal Board by selling cheap coal to private sectors.
Coal being a basic product, they want cheap coal in the same way that they want cheap bauxite, cheap copper from Chile, cheap tungsten from Vietnam, cheap iron ore when they can get it. Come 1958, oil was now flowing in sufficient quantities into the country. I told the miners, you're now on your own. The question of how much coal is produced in Britain depends upon your capacity to compete with cheap oil. That's when the pit closures really started.
Each colliery fought on his own, which was a mistake. As I said, the other colliery said, well, it'll never come my turn, you know. And they left their colliery fight on its own. I was involved in this, and I thought to myself, well, Sam Sisters never close, you know. But had I understood or tried to understand the reason for closures better than I had, I'd have known that this colliery would have gone. After the end of the war, they closed several of the seams that produced the highest quality anthracite and concentrated their efforts on the black vein, which was known to be faulty, full of disturbed ground. We understand now it was a deliberate plan to close the pit, because the seams under that mountain here, the Trim Mountain, are still virgin. Now the 9 feet seam here under that mountain there, which is the highest quality anthracite in the world, is 13 foot thick, and it's 2 miles long and a half a mile wide, that area alone. Now the lower end of this, there's enough coal there to produce 4,000 a day for the next 100 years. It's there, still there. They're concerned with not the interest of man, interest in profit. And in those days they could make a greater return on oil than they could have coal, because it was nationalised, wasn't it? Although the nationalisation, the compensation paid for that was a story in itself, you know. But, you know, that's the method of thinking they got. See, they're not concerned now with the well-being of the citizen or the area where we live. They're not concerned with that. It's money, isn't it?
The earth sometimes to get coal from the stinking mines, and now the answer for the crime is to Yorkshire too, yours in hand the same to you, Scotland.
I blame myself, I blame the men in the pit, and I blame the union, national-wise and local-wise, for not bloody fighting. They never used to fight. Always used to be, every area was its own little God's acre, you know. And I think it's only since the last strike that the unions begin to realise that the members want.
Well, when the top man, they don't want it, they're not so militant as they should be, or they're not as militant as they could be. What had happened? They come out of the pit and said, right, we'll sack you if you're not very careful. And they did do.
The rules are that we can have him removed by a court order of misrepresentation. And
that's what happened, isn't it? That's what happened.
It's misrepresentation,
right,
no doubt about it. It's got to come from floor level.
Right,
I mean, our decisions are made at branch level.
Right.
I mean, they're just carrying out our instructions. It's a job for life. This is one of the problems with our union. And I feel that the leadership that we've got at branch level has got my interests at heart. But they make the right decisions when I'm not there.
Right.
So, from that point of view, I don't attend.
But they need your help. They need your help.
Oh, definitely they do.
So,
I mean, the point is, any decision.
So you would think that where is the power in the country? What is national interest?
Beg your pardon?
What is the real national interest?
Well, I think basically to end the rat race, you know? This is my interest in life. I can't leave my kids a legacy, but I can leave them a better society. And this is my sense of purpose in life.
because they don't know how we live. That's the top and bottom of it.
I mean, never go down a coal mine, do they?
The general manager of this pit, he comes through the wall, we holds the machine off, and it was perfect from one end to the other. If he'd have come back here 3 weeks, 4 weeks afterwards, he would have come and see us putting 14-foot girders out to try and catch muck, because it was still going to that sandstone. That's what he should have come here. Because I know one thing, he wouldn't have stopped on the wall to have a chat with any of us, because he couldn't have got through there quick enough.
And I think this pay claim they put in for is nowhere near enough. It's got to be £70 a week. And I think when this is settled, we'll be putting in for a pay claim of £70 a week after this. Got to keep the men in the industry, especially the young men.
We are developing with automation, we are growing up with automation. They've seen a position where the outputs and the targets are being broken every day, and yet the net result, doesn't come to the working people within the industry. What are the advantages of the change in technology? Are they coming back to us?
There was a time in the history of the society when they said we must solve the problem of production. Now people know that they've solved the problem of production. Why are they screaming for production when they're restricting output? Why are they screaming for production when they're burning wheat? Why are they screaming for production when they're closing mine after mine? Everyone can see clear that this society has outlived its purpose.
The government is determined to ensure the survival of this nation at a reasonable level of life and industrial production, as reasonable as we can for the months ahead. Today again, the need for national unity is overwhelmingly clear.
These bastards, they have sterilized thousands of millions of tons. Now they want us again, the patriotic, the national interest. Yes, well, okay. There's got to be a national interest, but there's got to be a national interest of the people, not the bankers and the bloody financiers.
And it's the government that's obstructing us. The longer the government holds us against us and refuses to settle, the harder our line will get. And there's no doubt about it that we'll be standing fast and demanding our full demands of £35, £40 and £45.
I don't feel for one moment that the overwhelming majority of the British miners would accept any further comment by even Labour government or Tory government.
We should go towards a special national delegate conference of the TUC. Instead of that, by using us as purely a special case for the sake of 2 or 3 shillings above what they're present offering, on condition that the rest of the workers take less. We don't think this would be the wish of the workers, the rest of the unions, and it certainly would not be our wish to think that we would settle on the basis that it's going to come out of the pockets of other workers. We're just as hard hit as what the miners are hit.
Yes.
You can see where I put the bleeder. One of the things you've never had it so good. Yes, a few. In the box.
Well, I haven't been on the gallopers. Ask him, he's been on the gallopers.
Just on the general reaction of the lads, not indicating how they voted, it looks though we're going to get a massive majority.
At the same time, we should do Picketing, you know. That'll be the attitude. I mean, as far as we're concerned, we did it last time, we should do it again. And we shall do what is necessary, that's all there is to it. We're not going to deliberately go around breaking laws, but at the same time, we should do Picketing. And if they want to put us all in jail, well, they'll put us all in jail, if they've got enough jails. You know, that's it. It's got to come.
Unanimous decision to call the strike starting midnight of the 9th, and it'll be a complete strike. Total strike. Okay?
Have you never been satisfied?
Can you tell me that?
Isn't there a danger that this strike, in fact, is bringing Britain to its knees?
We blame the economic crisis entirely on the policies of the government, and particularly as far as the coal crisis is concerned, on its stubborn attitude in forcing the coal board to reject what is a reasonable claim for our members.
The support has already been shown tremendously in the areas. And last night at a rally in Sheffield, the engineers pledged their solidarity, along with the transport workers, in any action that we wish to take. And they've already intimated that they will cut off any supplies of fuel that are going to power stations or to any other major employers in this nation. So I am satisfied that there will be a complete support from other trade unions.
And if necessary, of course, that will involve picketing power stations and other places to ensure that that happens.
Including pipelines?
Including pipelines, although we have to discuss that with the guy who turns the tap on.
The Labour and Trade Union movement realise that if the miners are defeated, then the whole Labour and Trade Union movement in Britain is defeated. And they also realise and appreciate that if the miners are successful, then the whole Labour and Trade Union movement in Britain will also be successful in defeating the reactionary policy of this reactionary Tory government.
And the miners also feel that there is an historical responsibility placed on them right now. And we are proud as miners to be in the front of the struggle. And we believe that if any section of the working class is going to break through, then the miners can break through Phase 3 and all that Phase 3 means. And of course, once the miners have broken through, then the rest of the working class will come through. And the miners are in the front, and the miners are proud to be in the front. And that, in my opinion, is the place where the miners should be.
At the moment, we have 120 odd pickets up in the London area, power station, coal dumps, oil refineries along the River Thames on the Essex side, West Thurrock and Purfleet. Come down Rochester, Chatham, Gillingham area. We've got about 8 flying pickets roving around in the car in that area.
Time to tow it out and anchor it then. Yeah. Well, that's the agreement I've got with the local organiser of the TNG.
It's to stop fuel, power station fuel going through. Picket lines being respected. We're patrolling all down the Kent coast, way down into Sussex, to Brighton and Shoreham area.
There's nothing coming in. Nothing coming in, nothing coming out. All the things that's coming out is just refuge of the coal dust.
You know, everybody's going out of their way to give us a hand.
In fact, we come from miles around just to talk to you, you know, and bring in beds, blankets. The flasks we got there belong to students.
Sorry, Mrs. Thatcher.
in jail again.
No, see if we get through. Yeah, you got through the other day.
A very special welcome to the pickets of the National Union of Miner Workers. I'm quite sure it takes me to say from this platform that we support them in their fight 100%. This is the forefront of the industrial battle, and this is one that not only have we got to settle, but we have got to win.
Oh, yeah. Hello, boys. All right. All right. Yes, all very good cause. All very good cause. Thank you. Thank you. Go on, Lee. Push it. Thank you.
It's our tradition. Same as the Queen on her horse goes out, salutes the troops, that's tradition. Sailor goes up the gangway, salutes empty deck, that's tradition. And it's tradition of us dockers to help you miners. Brother. It's only a small sum. We'll give you more later. £550. We all realise that what we need most important of all during this struggle at this present time is money. But first and foremost, what we want is the solidarity of other workers. Now, I can't start talking about 500 quid's worth, but whether it had been 500 quid's worth or 5p, these lads, wherever they are, showing the solidarity they do, always welcome, and all I hope is that after this is all over, that we'll still be as close as what we are at the present moment.
We gradually understand now that the greatest power, the most important people, are the people that produce it. And I believe that 1974 was the turning point when this power was realized, for the first time, I'm saying now, realized. We are the bosses. You know, we used to use it to, all through our lives, we've used it to bargain. Not consciously of the power, you know. Honest day's work, you know, honest day's pay, you know, that's what we used to say, isn't it? But we don't think that way now. We are the power.
The government realise that, of course. The government knows who the strongest section of the working class are. And so they're going to attack the strongest section. And it's quite obvious if we get defeated,
And I know I'm just repeating, and like a parrot perhaps, all the things that have been said before. But the government know that if they defeat the miners, everybody else is a pushover. And the miners, I'm pleased to say, realise that as well. The miners and the families know that there's nowhere else for us to go. If we're defeated, that's it.
Now in '84, you've got a younger element, and Thatcher was sort of relying on that younger element, who majority of them have got big mortgages, cars, they enjoy a holiday, of going back to work. But she's wrong, because that younger element now are stronger, I think, than what they ever were in '72 and '74. And that's what's frightening them. And so what she's resorting to now is just personal attacks on the leadership, hoping that she's going to split Scargill away from the union so that we turn on Scargill, but it's not going to work because we're solidly 100% behind the leadership.
We called the strike. The strike come from the rank and file this time. Didn't come from Scargill. There was a pit out in Yorkshire, and we followed suit. Everyone came out on their own accord. We had votes. Every pit in Kent had a vote, and virtually every pit that's in the country on strike had a vote. So, and it's come from us this time, not Scargill. The rank and file's called the strike.
We've been mandated since 1981 over any pit to close other than grounds of exhaustion to take strike action, and we're just implementing that mandate.